6:06. Time for the MUD 36 meeting to come to order. And the first thing is roll call. Sharon DeMarce here. Pete Perez. Murray Smith.
Here.
Vince Fredericks, not here. I haven't heard from him. So anybody hear from Vince?
He's out of town.
Okay, thanks. And then Kent Maggard is here. Number 2 is, I don't know why this is on here. Consider an act on video recording of the MUD 36 meetings. It's number 2, huh? Okay.
It's what in?
It's the number 2 is,
Should be.
shouldn't be, well,
Voted on it last month.
it was our,
2 months ago.
received comments from the public. We got anybody that wants to comment? I got no sheet here. No comments from the public? Consider an act on a request for adjustments or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Mike? None? Okay, the consent agenda. First of all, I'd like to move the number 6 to the regular agenda because I got some questions.
I second that.
Good. So anyway, we've got new directors and we're getting ready to have a budget in a couple, 3 months. So it'd be good to people get more familiar with finances. And I've got some questions. So with that, we have a move to, or a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have only one thing to say. Did anybody oversee the extravagant expenses for anybody in the district or the Woodlands Water Trustee business?
Why don't you explain yourself? What do you mean?
If there was nothing out of line, no, I did not review it. I'm just asking if anybody else had reviewed it.
I have not.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
You got it. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Okay, let's start with number 6, move down to the regular agenda. And I've got a couple of questions, just trying to catch up from where I was 2 years ago. And on page 12, Maureen, basically you've got a cash and investment table. Let everybody find that.
Thank you for citing the page number. That's very good.
I like that.
Yeah, we
12.
appreciate that.
And there's been some talk about the fact that we don't have sufficient reserves. And I want to clarify exactly what we're looking at here. And we've got investments of 7 different items. Could you just go through for everybody what these 7 items are and why they're 7 items?
And why, and how liquid they are.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's about in the middle of the page under the category investments on page 12. The first 3 are the operating funds and they're in 3 different pools. The second 3 are the tax fund in 3 different pools. And the last is the 1 capital projects remaining funds from the construction.
Okay, but those are all accessible to
Yes.
us to spend, right?
Yeah, so we, on the capital projects caveat there, so those are remaining from your bond issue a couple of years ago. I can't remember exactly what the year was, but anyway, we have an
21.
application submitted to the TCQ right now to use those surplus construction funds on some drainage projects that Mike had identified. I think that have you already paid for those with operating, and then we're going to reimburse
Right.
operating with those construction funds. So we have an application pending with the TCEQ to be able to get those.
So can we spend those now? Or do we have?
No, not till we get the
What?
TCEQ.
So
Brian, could you clarify that we are below the TCEQ thresholds on that particular capital projects? And
So these are funds that, going off of memory, but I think these are funds that were remaining from the bond issue that the district did because the estimated interest rate was, I believe, higher than what the bonds were actually issued at, which is common. And so when you have bond funds, there's a lot of strings attached, and you can't use those remaining bond funds unless you have approval from the TCEQ. Woodlands Water staff had identified some drainage, I think, projects that needed to be done and were being done initially with operating funds. But we were going to get approval from the TCEQ to use those construction funds for that project because they're bond funds. You can't just use it unilaterally. So that application is pending with the TCEQ. When that application is approved, those funds will be moved into the operating fund, and then they'll be generally accessible because you will have reimbursed your operating for what you will have spent on those projects. Then they'll be
Liquid.
How far back can you go?
that'll wipe out the
No,
capital.
I'm talking about time wise. I mean, can you go back 5 years, 10 years?
What?
The reimbursement of stuff that you've already spent.
No, it was in process when the application.
in the last 20 months or so.
Correct.
This is for the automation.
No, I can't remember what.
Original bond, yes.
No, I know what
Right.
the original bond is. We got $300,000 that I want to get a hold of. I say, well, why, I said this board has got $300,000 here.
Once the TCEQ approves the application, then those funds will be moved into operating, and then they'll be accessible for use by the district for reasons.
Would you please clarify what most other MUDs have? They have like 9 to 10 months and some have 12 months, and we don't have that.
So what?
There's a lot bigger discussion here than these.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sharon, that's another issue that doesn't have anything to do with this, right? now. Well, indirect.
It does, yes.
So you're operating, if you just add up these numbers, 380 and 54, so you're like 420, 425, 430, somewhere in that range. And I guess that's what's producing your 3 month of surplus. So when you get the 325 moved over, that should bump your surplus up to probably 5.5 months would be my guess. So that's where you'll be when we're through with this TCEQ.
So we got applications to get all of that back into our operating account. Is that?
How long would it take?
Depends on TCEQ staffing. I mean, we submit those things expedited, so they should be approved 60 days, but it doesn't happen that way. So my guess is in the next few months.
Okay, no, so we applied to get it all
Yes.
reimbursed and
Yes.
back into the operating account.
I asked Maureen for a quick ratio. Define quick ratio.
Current assets over current liabilities.
Right. What is it? Oh, you haven't got it
Yeah,
yet?
yeah. It's to the children.
Excellent.
I have to run
Anyway,
your current. I
I've
just-
got some, we'll get into that
Yeah.
later on, like you say, about what reserves we need. That's a different subject, which we'll get into when we get down to the budget in a week, or a month or two. But anyway, I had, when I was on the board previously, I don't agree with this calculation of a percent of revenue. It's a percent of basically what the chances of having a disaster in your mud, which MUD 36 essentially has no chance. But anyway, we'll
No
talk,
chance.
well,
Zero chance.
for zero chance. Well,
Mud, I would say.
Anyway, we'll get into that down the road.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to clarify because I saw that $300,000. And so basically in the immediate future or immediate few months, we're going to end up be able to put it in our operating account.
Correct.
I have a question. If you're finished, Kim.
I'm finished.
I have a question about page 9, if y'all could join me there. It's just, I've been focusing on the fund we just discussed, the capital projects fund, and it's moving along as we have discussed. So today I was looking at the page 9 on the tax fund, just to understand a little bit more about the control of the tax fund and see if it has anything related to what might possibly happen if we change the tax rate and have to have the rollback election. It went down, from what I can tell, Maureen, in equity, we got our 89,000 transferred over. Then the expense of 70,000 was our bond payment. And then it reduced our total equity and surplus to 60,765. And when we started the year, we were at like 110,686. So I was just wondering, how does that relate to what we might have to do with our tax rate? And will this come back up in some other fashion to create more of an equilibrium?
I think that probably the answer to that is that we'll be digging into a lot of this when we talk about your budget setting here in the next month or so. As far as
Tax rates and how we're
well,
going to,
tax rates,
to get
water,
the-
sewer rates.
yeah, the income up.
reserves, Projects you've got coming up, absolutely. All of that has to kind of be talked about as a whole.
Okay,
And if I recall, if we did a rollback, it'd be in 2025.
but we have to vote.
Yeah, it goes out to a vote in November 2025. Not this year. You need some time for it.
Brian, do you have anything to add?
Well, actually, I needed to circle back around on the surplus. I was thinking of a different district when I was thinking of drainage. You kind of hit me on the spot. This one, I pulled up the application. This one's actually for wastewater rehab. And just to confirm with Mike, that has not yet been done. So that's a different item. So
It
this
wasn't the
one's-
over excess from the the meters.
It's still from the previous bond issue, but the purpose for the use is
Was not the
for
meters.
drainage. No, that was for the bond issue. The purpose of the bond issue was for the meters, but there was surplus. The surplus application to the TCQ is actually for wastewater rehab, and that has not yet been
It's
done.
dedicated for that.
Correct. So
Okay,
just
so you
want to
can't
clarify.
use it in the general fund, correct?
Right.
Okay, correct. You can't, it's dedicated to wastewater, so you can't.
It won't cover what you need to do, but it's a little bit.
Okay, it's a little bit.
So apologize, kind of got hit on the spot there. I was thinking of a different district, but that's what this is for. It's for the wastewater rehab.
I have a question. By the way, what Ken's bringing up here is excellent.
I agree.
It's excellent. Because we are financial, we're not supposed to be technical, but we are, but we're also financial. It isn't, if I read in the last minutes that Maureen gave me years ago, thank you very much. And we had a financial guy that would come in and say, take a look at what we're doing. Can't remember the guy's name.
Adam Cohen was very,
Still with us.
He's still with us, okay? Is there any way we can get him back in to just take a quick look at everything and say, you're good, you're bad, you're okay, everything is fine?
We'll be going through
You
that
can
whole
work with
process.
him on this.
We're gonna go through that whole thing with Adam and
yeah,
everybody.
early August, there's
Looking
typically
side by
a
side.
meeting.
Okay,
Early August, there's typically a meeting with staff, myself and Adam to go through the budget and proposed recommended tax rate, what have you. And that's what's presented to at the August meeting.
very good. Excited for that.
Now I got one other question. Do we still owe the River Authority money, Mud 36 from the grand accountings? Have we paid all that off?
Yes.
So we got, some MUDs owe millions.
Really?
And due to the fiduciary responsibility of the previous boards, we were able to pay them out of cash at least once. And anyway, we don't owe them any money.
I think you've got
So-
a separate wastewater on your budget here. You've got a wastewater capacity loan, but that's not related to the final accounting.
But anyway, just keep that in mind, Pete.
I will.
Good.
I will keep that in mind.
I'm not sure what Brian may know whether there's any, are we the only mud that doesn't owe for capacity? Because most of it was sold with bonds.
Yeah, I couldn't, honestly, I'd be lying. to you if I
Okay.
could tell you off the top of my head.
Sorry, wasn't an
I'm already
agenda.
0 for 1 on that
Yeah,
today.
that's right. It wasn't an agenda item. I'll give you a pass.
But we'll determine all that in the next couple of months for all of it.
Yeah, few not.
Okay, back to the regular agenda, item 10. Receiving the regular monthly SGRA Woodlands Division report, including updates on operations, projects, and public outreach.
Do need to take action. You all pulled item 6 from the agenda. I know we kind of wandered off into a lot of discussion.
Oh, okay.
Do need to Action on 6.
Okay, I will get back to, do we have a motion to approve and act on the financial reports and disbursements?
I'll make the motion you said.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, back to number 10. Thank you. I'll get this down.
So our report's in your packet, beginning on page 16, runs through page 33. First part of that is going to be the Woodlands Division report. Second part of that's going to be the GRP report. Just want to point out a couple things. One, as I talked about last month, on page 18 at the top, you'll see a violation for wastewater plant 1 due to the peak flow. Today we had a whole lot of rain come through the area. Just point them out when they're there. Page 19, you're going to see the financials. The financials are for April. Y'all recall, beginning of May, we did a switch over of our accounting system. So the April financials are the last one to come from the old system. The new financials are in the new system. So at the July meetings, you'll see the May and June financials at the same time.
Okay, I noticed it said April 30th and I thought, well, what happened with that?
Yeah, a little bit behind, but we'll get there.
Okay, thank you.
The only other item I do have is that prior to the meeting, Ed passed out a flash drive. That flash drive has all of the wastewater strategic plan information for the last 2.5 years on there. All the information we have on the AC water lines, plus everything that was given to us. As the most recent 10-year project plan, as well as the contracts between MUD 36 and the River Authority. So a lot of good information on there. Take a look at it. If you have any questions on any bit of it, just let us know. Yes, sir.
One question, something that Kent asked in the trustees meeting was about the parameters that we have to meet in the wastewater plants, right? Is that on here?
That is not. I've emailed Director Maggart's request for 5 years. I've emailed that to Eric last week.
Okay, that's some great information.
That'll be in the next packets, I assume.
We'll provide it. We're not going to include it in the packets going forward. It's probably 30 pages worth of stuff. So I'll provide it to
Okay.
everybody. So you'll get it and then we can do updates maybe every 6 months or so.
Consolidate it some way where in the
It's
graph.
consolidated.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a lot of data, but I have it. I have the spreadsheet so we can get it printed out and definitely get it to you for sure.
You do a soft copy,
But what?
soft copy, not printed out.
Absolutely.
Okay,
However you want it.
thank you very
However you
much.
want it. Same.
yeah,
Paper
like it.
or whatever.
paper copy.
If I'm
Word.
The other item on the flash drive is we did include electronic maps of the water and the wastewater systems. We ask that you do not print nor share those. Those are covered under Homeland Security for confidential security information. So just keep those to yourselves in case you want to see where stuff is. You have it. That's all I have unless you have any questions.
I have no questions. Okay, we don't have to act on anything. Steve, update on water reclamation facility number 1.
In your, well, 2 things. We'll do the easy one first. Set a document like this at your place. This is the land acquisition status report for the water reclamation facility number 1. advising you that there are 17 tracks being considered. We've contacted, we've gotten right of entry on 53% of those 17. We've given the landowner their bill of rights, 65% of the tracks. Mind blank, sorry. Environmental site assessment, phase 1. We've done 20% of those, and we've done 10% of the boundary surveys. We've done no appraisals, and we've not offered any, submitted any offers to the property owners. One of the previous meetings, the director asked that we put budget information on here, how much is budgeted and how much has been spent, so you can see a progress report on that. The tracks in blue are the ones that are first priority. Tracks in green would be ideal, but some of the prices on floodplain property are pretty high right now for whatever reason. So if the green tracks are not acquired, Golden Road will have to be rerouted to north of the blue tracks because we don't want the public driving through the sewer plant. So that was a little bit of a surprise to us.
And
Yes,
also, we have discussed previously that no individual residential homestead is affected, or are they, now that we have spread to the acquisition, expanded the look?
There's 1 or 2 tracks that have a house on them, but they also have other activities going on the property. So
Are they legitimate, Ed?
we haven't seen any red lights out there. So
Yet.
don't know.
Okay.
We have been, go back to a year or so ago, we had a couple of the property owners contact us before we even made any contact and indicated they wanted to know timing and wanted to know basically how quick can we get this done. And some of them were businesses because they just didn't want to lease out their space and then have to cut off a lease. But all that gets dealt with the acquisitions.
And the FEMA flood plain property is just parcel number 17?
No, ma'am, it's all of the green tracks
Oh, all of the green.
and some of the track number 1. Look, see the little very faint cross hatching in those? That's designated as floodplain.
In the gold,
In the green,
and the gold.
there's some in the gold, but that's property we already
You
own.
already own.
But track number 1
Yeah, one.
has some cross hatching in
I
it.
see it. Okay.
But we'll bring you a report monthly to keep you advised of what that's being made.
What would you use the floodplain property for?
Basically, call it sanitary control easements.
Just
To keep people from
Yeah.
developing next to a sewer plant,
That's good.
because prevailing wind is typically southeast, northwest. And they might get a few odors during the day. Okay, next item is the, on page 34 and 35 of your packet. From the comments that were received, or comments we've heard prior to the election and since the election, even as recent as the new MUD director orientation, we realize that there is a strong desire by the directors for us to look at other options other than just MBR technology. And so we put this proposed evaluation together to look at MBR technology on new land, which we've already done. We would need to update the cost estimate. Look at conventional treatment on new land, basically the same type of treatment we have today in the plant, just move onto the new land.
Which is activated sludge,
Correct.
right?
Yes. Then the top bullet under that first category, replace in place, because there has been some questions, well, do we really need to go to the new land? So we're looking at that, and the goal is to do a true comparison, put everything side by side and look at advantages and disadvantages. During some of the meetings this week, the question has been asked, are you willing to look at repair in place? And that goes back to the blue list or the topics that David Munn talked about a month ago, the meeting that the new directors were brought in on. And so we're more than willing to do that. And so I'll add that in as part of the direction later on. But we want to look at pros and cons of the three plus maybe the fourth item. We also want to look at the delivery method of how this project goes through design and construction. So, and there are two ways to do it. One is competitive seal proposal. And the other is construction manager at risk. Competitive seal proposal, we do day in and day out with all the projects at the River Authority.
At hard dollar,
Sorry,
hard dollar proposals.
hard dollar, but also qualifications.
Okay.
So-
Hard dollar and qualifications versus
Versus,
P&L.
no, versus guaranteed maximum price.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
each process, each delivery method has some pluses and minuses. And so we want to identify what those advantages and disadvantages are. It also has construction manager at risk requires a owner's advisor during the project. And that has some added costs, consulting costs to that. If we go competitive seal proposal, more than likely we would need a program manager to help manage that project. So we want to look at that.
Yeah.
Fine.
On the CMAR, I thought we already hired the owner's advisor.
We did, but I'll get back around to that. Construction manager at risk is something the school districts use day in and day out for delivering school buildings. Contractor works with the architect and they basically do value engineering while they're designing. Contractor showing, all right, here's an easy way to get this done. So there is some advantages to doing that process in project delivery because you basically are value engineering while you're going. The contractor will tell you, I've got forms that'll fit this. And you size based on forms or you size based on what is more expedient or more efficient.
He's a partner rather than just a true
Correct. And the contractor gets, we would get a guaranteed maximum price. And so there's some advantage to that. We've used the CMAR process on the surface water program 10 years ago. We had a fixed schedule, we had a fixed budget. And so it was very helpful in meeting the delivery time and the budget. So we want to look at disadvantages and advantages and be able to compare those side by side. Down to the third bullet towards the bottom of the page. We already have a conceptual layout for MBR technology.
Mm-hmm.
We need conceptual layouts for the other methods. Conventional on new land and conventional treatment on existing land. You don't really need a layout for repair in place because essentially you will be going in and doing equipment replacement instead of basic replacement. The last bullet point on the bottom of the page, we're talking about getting updated cost estimate on MBR and whole new cost estimates on conventional treatment on new land, conventional treatment on current land, and then also the repair in place, if that's the choice that you all make. And add that to the project. We would be looking at a 50-year horizon. So we would see operation and maintenance costs through that 50 years. In some cases, typically the mechanical and electrical equipment is lasting 20 to 25 years. So you would see that in that 50-year planning horizon, along with chemical and other costs associated with your typical maintenance.
And I need a clarification. I was reading through the trustees report.
Yes, ma'am.
And I thought they wanted some kind of a comparison on the replacement and the complete rebuild, but it was a 25-year assessment. Where does that fall?
And so the repair in place would look at that concept. And because that happened during the meetings over the last 2 days, I didn't adjust this
I see.
email to accommodate.
I understand.
You can see at the top of the second page that we'd be looking at the 25 to 30-year bonds for the major projects, the repair in place might be able to be done with R&R funds. We just have to look. The final thing that we want to look at is about evaluate manpower needs to be able to deliver these projects. We have a certain size staff within TSD. They have certain expertise. They don't have all of the expertise associated with this project. So there is the need to determine whether we need to bring staff on permanent to help deliver the project, or we go through a consultant to help deliver the project. And so the consultant that would perform this evaluation would tell us what expertise we need. They would estimate costs associated with man hours and specialties. And then also look at what we would need to deliver the project during construction. So construction administration, inspection. We know that obviously we're going to have materials testing and all sorts of other sub-consultants working during that project. So manpower needs would be built into that. We're proposing to use an independent consulting, someone that has not been involved in the project. Freeze has done a good job for us. We're very happy with them, but we've also got the impression that you all would appreciate having an independent review and evaluation offered.
Who's the number 2 engineer that you've had involved, or the first one?
First,
It's the first one.
yes. And only one. They've had a few sub-consultants working with them, but they've been involved through phase 1, phase 2, and this most recent evaluation. They would not be involved in this one. What our ask is of you all tonight is to talk amongst yourself tonight and determine if you are interested, determine how you would direct your trustee at the next trustee meeting to vote whether in favor or not in favor of this proposal to go forward. And if you want to add in the 4th repair in place, that's fine. We're happy to add it in. But essentially, we would go to the July meeting and have an agenda item to make a decision on how to go forward. This study would take 6 to 8 months. And at the end of that 8 months, we would bring to you the consultant's report with a recommendation from us on what we think is the best option going forward, with an explanation why. Now, that said, the next, and I'll take questions after this. The next agenda item talks about supplemental agreement. If you have already approved the supplemental agreement, we would ask that you rescind that approval, because at the end of the 8 months, we don't know if the recommendation will be MBR technology is what's described in that document, nor do we know whether that would be $40 million that we need to help move this project to the next phase. The next phase is really, there's enough information that's coming out of this study to be able to give us clear direction, whether it's MBR technology or whether it's conventional technology, whether it's repair in place, and then we'd be able to tell you what kind of monies we need to go for. So that's the basic layout. I'm happy to answer any questions in addition to what you already asked.
Well, I have one. Obviously, we've already signed the supplemental agreement, and I was wondering, what are we going to be doing in the next 8 months? What would be, I'm not clear on the next step. Brian, can you throw in your thoughts as well?
Well, as Ed mentioned, their recommendation is to rescind that supplemental agreement.
Right.
And then the trustees would consider at the July meeting whether to approve moving forward with this plan to do the 4 different comparisons. And if the trustee board approves doing that, then basically we wait until that report's completed. The River Authority does the best that it can to continue to operate as it has been to operate the facilities in the interim. And then we come back and receive that report probably February, March, and have a discussion, receive their recommendation about which of the 4 options that they believe is the best path forward, have discussion among MUDs, and then go from there on reconsidering a supplemental agreement for whatever option is preferred among the MUDs.
Can you, are you at liberty to share with us, what the consensus, is from some of the other MUDs?
Well, you're the last one to meet, and all 9 have approved, up until now, have approved going forward with the study. I think, I couldn't remember how many have said 4 versus 3, because it kind of, changed over time. I think what's gonna happen is it'll be 4. That'll be probably what the trustees vote on. And then, the districts that had approved the supplemental have all rescinded.
Okay.
We do have money already in the R&R fund to be able to do this. So it's not like it's a new allocation. We would just the money that's currently allocated, we would rescope and apply this money to that.
Question.
I handed out a summary of, I think, the reason I'm here. And Murray and Vince, the reason we're here is basically summarized on this table. And just to give people an idea of the first cost estimate for this plant was put out by a memorandum from you folks, which I think you gave me a copy. Yeah, but you're familiar with the memorandum, I think, that February that came from the. You wrote it? Did you make the cost estimate? 153 million?
The cost estimate was from baseball. So the 153 in that memorandum was in reference, and it was attempting to basically compare to just the cost of construction to the city of Conroe's plant. So that was the question at the time, was the city of Conroe
I understand.
bid a project, right?
Mhm.
And so it was construction versus construction, didn't include any CMT, didn't include any engineering, didn't include any of that. So that was the 153.
The very next month, this task force approved going ahead. And I assume that was the only number that they had was 153. And that is spelled out, in one of your engineering memos. But apparently I wasn't there. This is all, I'm on the periphery assembling all this. But the next month.
Let's clarify something. March of 23, board trustees authorized us to go into phase 2.
Right, but they saw this 153.
Correct. But
Okay.
part of phase 2 was to refine the cost of the project.
And then it must have got refined because 2 months later, you made a presentation to the contractors at the Lone Star, and it increased to 226.17. Nice round number. But anyway, I actually went because I wasn't a member. I wasn't on the MUD board then, but I was curious on. So anyway, I went to that meeting and there was this presentation, and this was the next number I saw was 226 in 2 months. It went from 153 to 226.
And the 226 included all the engineering and all of the construction and the contingency. So the 153 was a comparison directly just with construction costs. So let's keep apples to apples and oranges away.
Unfortunately, when you go to these presentations, that isn't, this number came up and it's up there for 30 seconds. And then it gets published in the Impact magazine. Published. It doesn't say that, what the background is. And then, of course, we ended up in 6 months later, we had a presentation and the number went to 289.
As we continue to
So,
refine.
yeah.
the
Well, hopefully you don't continue to refine anymore. It might be 500 million. Because it sure went up. But anyway, this is, that basically what I'm telling you is with me, your numbers and your consultants, they don't have any credibility because, as a manager, you've come in and you've given us 3 different numbers. And to me, somebody would look at that and at least say, I think I went to this meeting where I saw the 289. And I even brought up this fact and nobody wanted to explain why the number all went in 6 or 8 or
Mr.
9
Ryan, I
months.
believe I've explained this to you the exact same way, of that it was a construction number versus a construction number. And then when we went to that meeting in March and in April, where we spoke to the engineers, we presented them the whole cost so they could be aware of the construction costs and the engineering costs that we had budgeted. So I'm sorry if that's not a consistent answer for you, but it has been one that I've given multiple times.
Well, the net result is Conroe built one in 2019, 2020 for 60 million, for 60 million. And then it went, you said, well, they built one for 60 and we're estimating this is 153. But anyway, Conroe built one.
Legitimate increase in the construction costs in the industry, Mr. Maggard. I can't control that. Our consultants can't control it. It's something that we've seen a guaranteed maximum price out of a project in Pflugerville for a very similarly sized project for 247 million last week. So this is the current economics of what we're up against. I wish it was $60 million. I wish we could have done
Hey,
this.
I understand that,
Right.
but I'm telling you what a manager looks at, or I'm talking about why we're here.
I appreciate your perspective.
So anyway, we saw we went with 153 to 226 to.
I have a point just here. We've heard a presentation. We're backtracking on a lot of old stuff. The SGRA has presented an option to the board, and the request is the directors need to give their trustee direction on how to vote in July on what to vote for as far as doing the evaluation. So I think that's really the discussion we need to be having.
I understand that, but
That's the motion that we need to address today.
we're not there yet. Here is my problem is that we need a consultant to go in, and they only have one request, is that they give us the cost to rehab the plant and say, we want it to last 25 more years, and don't give them all these alternatives, because, they'll end up and they'll find the highest cost solution, more than likely. So what I'm asking is that we end up and we hire a consultant, or you, and their only directive is tell us what we need to do to keep this plant running for another 25 years. And all this other stuff right now is superfluous. Comparing all these, this is my opinion. Once we get that and the guy comes back, or whoever they are, and said, well, it's going to cost some ridiculous amount of money to rehab it, then we go back and we look at what process we're going to use to rebuild it. But
You have a lot of different strong opinions on the spectrum. And so we have folks who say, why are we even jacking around with this? We're ready to go on the membrane, new plant, let's go. And then we have the other. So I think what the river building, my impression from sitting through all these meetings is they're trying to accommodate everybody. Let's have a base case, which is, I think, trying to accommodate the point of view that you have and some other directors, and then look at other alternatives that other directors are very interested in, to be able to compare them all side by side, have a thorough analysis, and everybody make a decision.
well, all I'm asking is that you get a separate consultant to in other words, don't have the same consultant come up and evaluate all three.
I believe you put that on the agenda for the next trustees meeting.
That's exactly
Correct.
And we're going to have it on this agenda for our meeting, is that you direct me to do, but basically
We don't have to do
I
that.
have an agenda item that I put on for the trustees, and I'm going to put on for our agenda to do exactly that, is that we recommend, and I'll give you a copy of it, that we recommend that we hire, and I'm talking about Woodlands Water, and the trustees hire their own consultants.
Okay.
That's my my agenda item. In other words, and I'll also tell you what I'm going to recommend is that we establish a engineering subcommittee, just like we have a accounting subcommittee or a personnel subcommittee, and we have 3 engineers. We got a bunch of them now, and I'm out. I'm one and done here. So I'm not interested in being on there, but we got a lot of competent engineers. Here's one right here that can walk and talk the language, and it would be good to have some input, since we're all paying the bill. All these nuts are paying the bill. It's not the
I
river
didn't think
authority.
that was my job, to be an engineer.
No, I'm just talking,
Did
no, I'm
not
just,
think it was my job.
I'm just talking about,
Yeah,
we got now, or 50 people, but the other thing is we got 19 new mud directors.
No, well, we have
Uh,
19 on this election, but we actually have 34 or 35 that have been on the board for 2 years or less. Out of 45.
But this last election was really, that's the reason there's a lot of mud directors is that,
There's
they
been a lot of change in the last.
no,
2
but the
years.
point is this was what really precipitated the issue or the changeover of the boards. So anyway,
So we don't have.
so we don't act on this. This was
Direction, but we do need board members to give direction to Kent as the trustee on how to
About the
vote
rescission.
well, not on that's a separate agenda item, is to give direction to Kent on how to vote at the July trustee meeting on the River Authority's proposal to engage the consultant to evaluate the 4 different options, including the base option that Kent was looking for.
No, that wasn't my agenda item is.
Not just you, there are other directors.
I have, oh, yeah, but my agenda item is to hire our own engineering consultant. When I say our own, I'm talking about the trust.
Who's gonna pay for
And we're gonna pay for it either way.
it? Whom?
No, I mean, it's either gonna be Woodlands Water, or we're gonna get a bill from the River Authority.
No, that's a budgeted item already. There's-
No, but somebody pays for it, right? Right. But eventually it comes to us.
But that's already a budgeted item.
Well, hey, Eric, it's paid for by us in their budgets already. They're gonna send us a bill, right?
Just one clarification. This engineering firm is the one you have reinforced that's going to be a totally different firm from Friesen Nichols. It will be a new company that's going to look at it with fresh
And have the
eyes.
expertise to do the evaluation.
Yeah.
And so
That's just,
I'm not sure
that
I
goes to
understand.
Eric. That's for next month's.
This is from last
That's
week.
for, no, but no, that's that's for our
But
agenda.
it's the same thing.
No, well, it's rewritten a little bit.
Is it rewritten?
Well, it's
I'm not sure I heard what the direction is for the trustee at the trustee meeting.
I have no clue.
So
No.
we'll need to, yeah, that needs to be discussed so you can get direction.
And why don't you repeat your proposal?
The request of you all is to talk amongst yourself and direct your trustee for a potential agenda item on the July 15 meeting on how to vote whether to approve going forward with this study or not.
Maggot, what's your thought?
I won't approve it myself.
I will.
Well,
Well,
he's just
the reason that-
asking for
No.
he's just asking for it to be on the trustee agenda.
On how to vote on it at the
Vote.
trustee meeting. It'll be on the trustee agenda. How should your trustee vote on that agenda item?
On behalf of MUD 36.
Correct.
And they're getting ready to hire more consultants. How many million have they already spent?
About 3.
3?
My guess.
Oh,
2.5.
well, Pete, they're getting ready to spend probably another $1 million.
I'm interested to know your thoughts about, you don't want them to look at all 4 options. What is your concern? Please share with me.
My concern is that this plant can be rehabbed probably for 30 or 40 million dollars. They've already generated a lot of numbers. And they want to build a new plant and spend 300 million. And your water bills are going to double. Eric's, ended up and they got a statement out there that the average water bill would go from $100 a month to $250. That's why people are concerned. And that's why Murray and Vince and I are here. That's the only reason, or one of the 2 reasons I'm here. But anyway, that's what concerns me is that now we're going to hire some more consultants. And, we've already got a whole lot of data that's been generated.
We don't have data totally generated.
My question
For-
is, instead of their consultant, hiring their consultant, you want to hire your consultant.
Absolutely.
You got that name in mind?
No, that's what this subcommittee is gonna get together. And they're gonna get 3 engineers and they've, Murray's worked with a bunch of folks in this area. In his
Like Murphy's
previous,
Head of that group.
no, but I'm just talking about, believe me, there's some other folks in other muds that are perfect.
I didn't think my job was an engineering job when I signed up for this, but
Well, believe me, they need some.
Well,
yeah.
someone needs to clarify for me because I've only been around for 2 years and I go to every meeting that's held, right? What, didn't we, Connie, in part of this review, look at the option of repair? If you remember, I said at the meeting, I was a big fan of Tom Tynan, and his motto is repair, repair, repair. And so we talked about that. That was in context with the pipe, AC pipe, but it was my understanding that the stakeholders who were prior to my arrival had already been through all of this transitioning and all of the discussions and had come to the conclusion after looking at the repair option and then the rebuild option. Can I have clarification on this?
Yes, ma'am, that is true. So in phase one, those things were looked at. But our understanding right now is there has, as Brian noted, there's been a lot of turnover and there's been changes in the MUDs. And there's a request for further clarification. So after phase one, we were directed to go with membrane on a new plant site. And so what we've heard from quite a few, if not almost unanimously from the MUDs, has been that they'd like to see a comparison with conventional specifically. And then that, replace on site and now then adding in the repair and replace as well. As of, this week, adding into Ed's list that he outlined. So our proposal at this point is to listen to the majority of the MUDs and try to put a proposal together for the comparison that y'all are asking for to make sure that we are moving in the direction that y'all feel like it's appropriate, fiscally responsible.
So there are, there have been other directors that have an interest in looking at repair in place as opposed to replace in place. And so that item has been added along with the others. And I think where we're going to end up, and it's up to the board, but if you come to the trustees and the other directors who also were interested in that repair in place were willing to go ahead and have the other items considered as well, so that the other folks who had strong opinions in the other direction could feel like they're,
Being heard.
they were being heard as well. It's going to be difficult, I think, to get approval on only doing one thing when you've got a spectrum of different opinions. I think that's going to be very hard to get the trustees to approve something that is just one option when you have different viewpoints of different options versus seeing them all side by side.
How much money are we talking about to do this 8-month study?
Murray, I don't have an exact number, mainly because we weren't willing to ask a consultant to provide a proposal until we knew whether this concept was even going to be approved. But we have roughly $500,000 identified to do this work.
Think you can do it for that?
Tell them they need to.
That's good.
So is one consultant going to do these 5
Yes,
evaluations?
one consultant is going to do everything I've outlined in that email plus the repair in place.
So my question is it your consultant or your consultant?
This MUD is the only one that has asked for their own
I
consultant.
can imagine. Now, what do I have to do?
Let me finish. You probably saw this. This is a $50,000 report. And yeah, that doesn't have a date on it, but anyway, it was presented a couple months ago.
I have all my stuff.
Well, no, I'm talking about to everybody. And anyway, they ended up and they came up with a plan to keep the plant running for another 18 months. And the total cost was $33 million. And my guess is that if you did all this, that would go a real long way to keeping the plant running for another 25. I think Murray's looked at, the River Authority produced it. Wait a minute, they work for you. You produced it.
They are.
They are an
something.
independent consultant
Yes.
to the River Authority.
Yeah, but
They take scope from us, but it's their engineering seal and signature on that.
But you hired them.
We did not tell them what the answer was.
Okay. But anyway, so the answer, the way I interpret this is that for 33 million, if you gave this to an engineering firm, yeah, it'll probably go a long way to keep it running for another 25 years. That's just my analysis of what I've looked at. So anyway, if you want to go ahead and tell me what you want to do as far as approving this proposal.
I think we should rescind what we did and approve what the SGRA wants to do, as opposed to going out and trying to find, getting a group together. Every day you put this off, it's going to be more expensive. I can tell you that right now, because inflation is not going down. It is going up. You want to do the right thing. Repair in place may be the right thing, or MBR, or micro bubble, or whatever. Okay. But my opinion is these guys are the best we have. And I would go with it.
One thing that I think about is that one of the reasons I ran was to be a voice for the residents. And then when we had a number of changes in the board of directors, when all the stakeholders before us had made these decisions, I feel like we have to be respectful to these new people have been elected by the residents. And if there is a group think effort, and they want to see, some of them want to see the just repair. Some of them want to see membrane. Some of them want to see a traditional technology. And this is what the new people, 35 out of 45, want to do. I think we ought to support that and let them feel like their voice is being heard, because I know what I caught on the board, and I had to hear that all these stakeholders had already voted, and I didn't have any kind of ramp up on this deal. I started asking for background and new meetings, and let's go over this. Let me understand how we're moving forward. And so now with all these new directors, I feel like we ought to let everybody feel like their voice is being heard. And so I would second the motion on the table to look at all of the studies.
Is there a motion?
No.
No, this is just direction. It's not a motion.
It's not.
It's not. a-
I'm opposed.
Okay. Murray, we haven't heard too much from you.
Yeah, it seems to me that do the study. It's $500,000, it's 8 months, it's pretty thorough. It's going to give us the data to make a sensible decision. I know why Kent doesn't like it, because what we're concerned about to some extent is it's a very cliquey business, the wastewater and water engineering design industry. And it's quite likely that whoever you select has some ties to or collaboration with the engineers, and they'll come up with a solution that any of them would have come up with. We're not necessarily getting an independent assessment. However, at least we get some numbers to look at. It gives us some time for us to look into it further. The issue of getting our own consultant is going to be discussed separately anyway. And if the trustees vote to get our own consultant in addition to your study, that can be done too. And our own consultant, it's a much more limited scope of work. It's just to look at repair in place. That's it. So that's not a huge study anyway. We're not talking about a whole lot of money.
Just who pays for it. That'd be the only concern there, or it's not a big deal thing.
Well,
You're paying
I don't
for it
think it's
either
a
way.
whole lot of money.
Yeah, no, to do a engineering study, you've got, like I said, looked to me like 50,000, you got pretty good data right here.
One of my highest hopes had been when knowing that you guys both have such a strong engineering background. Mine is in real estate. My father was an engineer, so I feel like I have some of those genes. But I was really happy to know that as we move forward on this project, that y'all would be very critical thinkers in this. And I just can't imagine that in the engineering company, when they have to present 4 alternatives, would be in lockstep. I just can't even imagine that. So I think that we should be able to, and hopefully with your help, be able to see through any kind of a shill action that they would be just rubber stamping something. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that happened.
I don't
I've
either.
owned 4 engineering companies.
Yeah.
That has never happened.
I don't think that's going to happen. And I think with y'all's expertise, you're going to be able to guide us through this discernment process. And so I'm willing to look at whatever it costs to get everybody's options looked at.
Okay,
We
well,
beat out of 11 today.
that's right. Well, the direction is that we're gonna recommend that they do the study.
Please.
That's what we'll do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So item 12, we do need the motion to rescind the supplemental agreement.
I move.
Okay.
Second.
I
Yeah.
Easy.
need to discuss the draft of the 2025 SGRA Woodlands Division budget.
So. My budget, so just to recap on the rates that we're proposing, so we are proposing a decrease in the water rate, down 2% to $2.73. The wastewater rate will remain the same at $5.65. And then the GRP blended fee, that's the pass-through that y'all see on your bills, will go from $3.20 to $2.97, which is a 7% reduction. So a lot of numbers, but 2 rates are going down and 1 rate staying the same.
Like that.
So then the other thing, just to recap, is that we're asking for y'all to direct your trustee next month for the trustees meeting in August, to either approve our budget.
In August, not July.
Correct. Y'all will at the.
Well, that's gonna be on the agenda.
Yeah.
It'll be on our agenda next time, right?
Yes.
Got it.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay. Proceed the attorney's report.
Nothing to discuss in open session. We will need to go into closed session on 17 when we get to that item.
Number 15, receive and or act on the general manager's report.
All right, good evening. Just have a few things. Wanted to let everybody know we did conduct the new director orientation on the 5th and the 10th of this month. And then SGRA had one on the 7th. I think those went very, very well. Got a lot of good feedback. One of the things that kind of came out of that as an idea I had was to further develop kind of a workshop series to identify different topics that directors could maybe dive in a little deeper on. We would develop the content over time. It would be open to all directors, not just new ones. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of questions I get from time to time from directors that, I kind of hear different things. And then we start to hear a few directors asking the same questions, start to realize maybe there's a topic there we might want to develop some content. So I'm looking at building kind of a workshop series, library of topics. So if there's any topics that you think you might want to dig a little deeper on as a general mud or woodlands, scenario, let me know, and we'll kind of work to develop that content. Wanted to point out in your packet, a couple articles, a couple customer thank yous that we also received. I really enjoy seeing those. I don't take those lightly because, not everybody takes the time to say thank you these days, So I really appreciate those.
They're very easy to be grateful.
There, that's right. That's right. So I appreciate when we get them. So I did want to update you, something that kind of came up. Kent brought it to our attention last month. we went and checked on it. There was a slight sinkhole and it kind of cave in at Maple Branch Park. We've actually gone in and made the adjustment and fixed that location. And
Install a whole new, what do you call the plastic? They got a name.
HDPE.
Anyway, put a whole new drain pipe.
Yeah, we do across the Woodlands. We have a significant amount of CMP, corrugated metal pipe, and those are disintegrating as we speak all over the place. So we're going to be building a CIP across the muds to identify where we have those. We've already fixed, I think, 4 or 5 of them across the Woodlands just within the last year. It just continues. And so I want the muds to be able to have kind of a CIP or a capital improvement plan roadmap to see where those are and what expenses we have coming down the pipe. So we're going to be looking at that. There were also a couple of trees that Ken had pointed out. We went out there and looked, and I think as of today, we were, I think, trying to get some of them cut up and get out of the way. So we're working on that as well. And those fallen down trees were in the ditch areas. So we're getting that cleaned up as well. Last thing I had was just to kick it over to John for the communication report.
Can I ask a question? How much does it cost to fertilize our ditches?
I'd have to look.
But how, I mean, and for mud 36,
How much is it?
for mud,
$100 an acre.
No,
That's
but-
not bad.
since, how many acres, how much does it cost mud 36? That's what I'm looking for.
$4,000.
4,000? So we got 40. Okay.
What's the justification for fertilizing the ditches? Why do you do it?
The most important thing you can do for a ditch is make darn sure that you have vegetative growth.
No.
If you lose that, then the ditch itself will be jeopardized to basically silt in. So you've got to, that's its only defense. Otherwise, you would concrete line the whole thing. And it's the way you do, and you can get away with not concrete lining it by making sure that you have vegetative growth. So that's the main reason. Just make sure that that vegetative growth stays healthy and keeps going.
So it holds the bank together
Absolutely.
and stops any erosion down the bank.
Yeah,
If you don't fertilize, it will erode?
it could. Yeah,
It could.
If it dies and then the vegetative growth dies off, then absolutely. Yeah. You've seen it all over town. You see a newly, freshly dug detention pond across the road and you see these big reels going down it. They haven't created vegetative growth soon enough before the rains, and then they're gonna have to redo that pond.
See it in the Gulf Coast bunkers every time it rains.
Same concept, that's right.
Your communications report is on page 41. I did bring forward some items from the strategic plan, especially for our new directors. You have your overarching goals there up top, and then our third quarter goals. The focus area for third quarter is water conservation, third quarter being June through August. And if you ever have questions about that strategic plan, please reach out. We review that monthly with the Public Education Committee, and then we update that annually in the fall. Page 42 up top, structural renewal communications. So we've been working with Holloway Consultants since last fall. We've spent most of the time in the planning and assessment phase. Now we're moving into the implementation phase. And so we've received a number of materials from them towards that. The Public Education Committee has, so we have viewed those materials, commented on those materials, returned those to Holloway for consideration. And those materials are outlined there. We are working on getting Holloway in front of the directors personally, so you can talk to them directly and ask questions and hear their answers and just be as clear as possible on how this process is moving forward. So we're looking at August timeframe, hopefully, for that. We've got examples of current advertising materials that are out. The Woodlands Water Weekly there, social media pieces, Community Impact and Chronicle are primary advertising outlets for us. In our Water Bill 2, I did want to make note on the water bill. There's an error there. The May bill, which is out now, is actually the orange one there on auto pay. And
Okay,
then the upcoming bill, that blue one is about the consumer confidence reports that are getting mailed out to every customer by July 1. And then we will also post those on the website, and we'll push that out via social media and email and so forth to really highlight those reports for folks. So those are coming out soon. With that, any questions?
I got a question. They're talking about resurrecting the waste or the water task force,
One water test.
one water task force.
already-
That's my question. Then tell me who is on the one water task force? And, you know, what's the protocol for how we are involved?
Yeah, it's kind of in the early stages. The township is involved. A couple directors are involved thus far. What we've and we're trying to identify, what are the goals this time going to be? Who's going to be involved? One of the several complaints on why the original task force kind of petered out was one is, you'd have these meetings with 30 people in the room and 20 of them could care less about the topic or the specific goal at that moment. So what we really tried to talk about is pulling in the right people at the right time for the goal at hand. And so, so that's number one. It's pretty small right now. It just started within the last month or two. And then, so yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, township.
Well,
You said directors. We have a lot of directors. Were you talking about a few township directors?
No,
or mud
There's
directors?
one township director and then their governmental affairs, Todd, and then a couple mud directors
Okay.
that showed a lot of interest in it. A couple of them were involved before.
Mhm.
And the concern is to not fall back into what some people have said failed. And I don't want to let that happen. So I want to be very, very focused on how that group goes forward and not just be a meeting for us to just meet. I want to find some real goals and things that group can do. So there's different topics that have been talked about. The Bear Panther project is one. Spring Creek, which is Spring Creek Drainage Detention Study, is two. That's ongoing as well. Those are independent from One Water, but those are things that One Water could jump on. There's always been talk around the area about developing a regional flood planning or regional flood control district. Montgomery County doesn't have one. Certainly trying to create a new taxing entity is a non-starter for pretty much anyone. And so it'd be more of looking at, Harris County has a significant drainage design criteria. Montgomery County is a little different. And so but some of these watersheds span 3 counties, and so whereas Harris County is the only one that really has its own flood control. And so the idea would be, what would that look like to maybe expand to have more of a regional flood control district that could help some of this regional flooding situation. So that's another topic that's the other topic that we've really talked about is, the water supply situation. Those were drainage projects, but on the water supply situation, we have Lone Star that, had regulations, currently doesn't have any regulations in terms of groundwater and surface water take. And so as far as, any mandate to take or lessen groundwater, take surface water or lessen groundwater. So that could be a topic as well, because that then, groundwater withdrawal relates to subsidence, which relates to or water source, which relates to subsidence, which relates to drainage issues potentially. And so it all kind of, ties back together. So those are a lot of just general topics. I think Bear Panther project is the closest to being something to go. There's some funding already involved. Funding's a little short. So I think that may be a task that group could probably pick up and run with it right now. to try to build confidence in the project and get some funding, additional funding.
I'd like to volunteer to be involved in that. And I've got some expertise in subsurface reservoir engineering, but to give you an example, we had a controversy about during the drought a couple years ago about all these ponds that we have here in the Woodlands and how the levels got low, and Creekside had a real problem over there. Anyway, in the course of that, I found that the township spends $1 million a year on potable water for irrigation, $1 million a year. And Maureen worked up the numbers. I think it was 147 million gallons they use of potable water. And so I asked them why, if they had looked at you putting in a limited purple pipe system to go to the areas to irrigate, you know, the major parks. And anyway, and it was kind of like, you know, we don't care. But anyway, I would like to be involved. I think I can have some technical expertise plus some ideas. You know, the golf course uses rehabilitated water for, you know, most people don't know that they pump water into Lake Harrison. And I think, don't they take water from Lake Woodlands and take it down and use it on the golf course? So anyway, I just want to put my name in the hat that I would like to be. As you know, our neighbors over here have a purple pipe system, South Montgomery County Mud. They're way progressing more than we are. So anyway, it's a joint effort to do that because we got us involved, we got the township involved and the river authority involved. Whereas some of these people, they're got one entity they have to deal with. We got three: river authority, us, and the township. And there's a real way to save a lot of potable water if they'll just use it for irrigation. So anyway.
I know you were going to some of the Lone Star meetings. Do you have the time to continue off and on, sitting in some of
Well,
those?
as you know, I ran for the Lone Star Board, and you know, I hate to be, you know, basically it's a board that was elected by, as you know, the Convest people put a lot of money into it to basically have unregulated groundwater production. So, yeah, anyway, I went to a bunch of the meetings and was concerned about, but it was, you know, it is what it is. You got a political entity that's run by one individual.
Eric? Sorry, this is an unrelated question. It wasn't a study done, a smoke test study done on the sewer pipe manhole system at some
Smoke test and
point?
televising?
Yeah, is it possible to get a copy of the report or study that came out of that?
Sure.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Proceed what, let's see, we don't have to act on the general manager report. 16, receive the Woodlands Water Trustees report. It's in the packet. Looks good to me.
Looks good.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shelley. 17, persist in the closed session, no closed
Yeah,
session.
we do need to go.
Oh, we
into
do.
session.
Oh, we do?
Briefly.
Okay.
Everybody accept